an unshowy politician, a lifelong public servant who's always left gambling to others. And then today, Sir Keir Starmer potentially threw away his political career.
If the police decide to issue me with a fixed penalty notice, I would, of course, do the right thing and step down.
The man who would be Prime Minister has now given police the power to decide whether he can even attempt to be Prime Minister. This is a huge personal gamble and a raising of the stakes for police, who now hold in their hands the fate of a man who insists he broke no rules, but right to draw a line.
This matters. It matters because the British public deserve politicians who think the rules apply to them. They deserve politicians who hold themselves to the highest standards. And they deserve politicians who put the country first rather than themselves. They will always, always get that from me.
A turn of events which Keir Starmer never contemplated as he nursed a beer with colleagues inside in Durham last year. Indoor gatherings were banned at the time, but Labour denied any breach of COVID rules on the grounds that it was a work gathering after a day of campaigning. Sir Keir Starmer decided to place his future in the hands of Durham Constabulary at around tea time on Friday, a few hours after police announced their investigation. "This is what I'm going to say," he told aides of today's statement. He then left it for the weekend to consult shadow cabinet colleagues. "This is authentic Keir," one ally said, of a leader who believes he's upholding standards he expects of others.
Does the Prime Minister really expect the country to believe that while people were banned from seeing their loved ones at Christmas last year, it was fine for him and his friends to throw a boozy party in Downing Street? We now have the shameful spectacle of a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom being subject to a police investigation. In this country, we respect others. We put the greater good above narrow self-interest, and we understand that the rules apply to all of us.
The Tories believe the Labour leader is a victim of his own rhetoric.
You couldn't make it up. He spent months in the most sort of painful manner being so sanctimonious, so self-righteous, coming over like some Obadiah Slope, ghastly preacher from Anthony Trollope. And now it turns out he's being criminally investigated. He said that when the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister were being investigated, they should immediately resign if they had a shred of decency or integrity about them. He's now being investigated, and apparently he's different.
Labour says its leader has acted with integrity.
Today, I thought what was really striking was just how honest, how honourable, how straightforward, how decent he was being, how he was saying, "I'm not like the other guy, this is who I am." And if they say that I have broken the rules and they give me a fine, I will resign. It's very strong, very brave and very honourable.
Mr. Starmer, is this gamble going to pay off?
A man of caution rolling the dice and moving on into a future to be decided by others.
And Nick's here with us now. Nick, what more?
Well, Kirsty, as you saw in my film, Conservative MPs are not impressed by this statement by Sir Keir Starmer. And tonight, Andrew Bridgen, who's a Conservative long-term critic of Boris Johnson, he's saying that the Labour leader has very cleverly ensured that he will absolutely not have to resign. And Andrew Bridgen points out that Durham police only ever issue a warning after a first offence. And Keir Starmer said, of course, he would only resign if he is actually fined. To that, Labour sources say, well, I wouldn't be too sure about any of that. They say, for example, example, the Metropolitan Police said they would not do any retrospective investigations until they did just that, and that the Durham Police commitment was based on their findings into Dominic Cummings, and they said that he may have been guilty of a minor breach, whereas, of course, Keir Starmer, it could be a major breach. Now, tonight, the Labour Party are very bullish because they believe that they have crucial evidence that shows that this actually was a work event, and they have proof that after this takeaway meal, Labour aides, Labour staffers did continue to work until 1 a.m, and Labour will be providing time-stamped WhatsApp messages showing that they're exchanging videos and messages up until 1 a.m. That crucially does not include Keir Starmer, and I have verified that Guardian report with the Labour Party.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. Well, joining me now is the shadow leader of the House of Lords, Baroness Anderson Smith. Thank you very much for joining us. Keir Starmer was informed by Durham Police that they were launching an investigation on Friday. Informed on Friday. Why didn't he just resign? Why didn't he just announce this straight away?
Well, first of all, I think he heard about it in the press on Friday.
Yes.
But I think he made a decision. But he just wanted to consult people, and I think we can be a little bit too cynical about this. I think this goes right to the heart of who Keir is. If you watched him making that statement today, he was very confident, he was very comfortable. That's what he wanted to do. No, it's more than a lawyer. He's a politician as well, and he's a man of integrity. And I think the two things that struck him today was, one, his own integrity about being linked in with the kind of shenanigans we've seen at Downing Street, which is a completely different scale altogether. And also, as he said when he made his statement, what he would not want to do was people to understand that all politicians are the same. There's a real feeling out there. It's not just about Partygate. It goes wider than that into even their own Patterson stuff. That the politicians who are making the rules don't want to abide by them.
But he was told on Friday, he didn't announce it straight away. You say he wanted to consult. Did he consult Shadow Cabinet? Did he consult you?
Yes, no, I've been in contact with Keir. But I think the important thing is he knew what he wanted to do.
But my point is, why didn't he just do it? Because why didn't he just do it over the weekend?
Yeah. He's done it today. It's the right thing to do. He's made a proper announcement. He's consulted. He's spoken to people about it. The timing of this, compared with what's been happening in Downing Street, the fact that Keir says today rather than 2 days earlier is pretty much irrelevant. This is a man of integrity.
Yes,
absolutely.
Let's be quite clear here. He said very clearly that he would resign if Durham Police issued a fine. Now, the Conservative Party are now saying, well, of course, the point is that Durham doesn't issue a fine straight away.
Dear.
Now, the point about this is, whether there's a fine or not, if Keir Starmer is found to have broken lockdown rules, will he resign?
We're absolutely clear that he hasn't broken lockdown rules.
But if he has, never mind the fine, if he has broken lockdown...
No, it's about the fine. He hasn't broken lockdown rules.
Hang on a minute.
No, what he said today is quite clear. If he's issued a fine, he will stand down. But he's also...
semantics,
no, it's
isn't
not
it?
semantics, because he is absolutely clear and has the evidence that it was a proper work meeting where they got some food. There is absolutely no doubt about that. He's clear, and he has said that all along. He's never said he wasn't there.
But what he said today, we watched it, was if he was wrong, he said he's absolutely clear he's done nothing wrong. If he has been found by Durham Police to have done something wrong and issued a fine, then he would resign. But my point is, first-time offence.
So you want him to resign if he doesn't get a fine?
Well, surely the fine isn't the point. The point is that he's either done something wrong or hasn't, and whether the police decide to issue him a fine or not isn't the key point. You would agree with that?
No, I don't. The key point is that he didn't do anything wrong. The evidence is there. It's absolute. But you've had pressure upon pressure on Durham Police to investigate. They looked at it once, didn't want to investigate. They're now going to investigate. And I think just show the police some respect and let them get on with it. But I think for a politician to say, if I'm issued a fine, but the Prime Minister doesn't say the same thing, I would resign. It shows the integrity, both his personal integrity and how he believes politics should be a force for good and people can believe that politicians are decent. That is really important to him.
And if he is issued with a fine?
Well, he's been very clear about it, hasn't he?
And what will that mean, do you think, for Labour leadership and all that? We're going to have contests, we're going to have discussions about which direction the party is moving in.
I think we're jumping ahead of ourselves because, we're very confident that no rules were broken. But we let the police do their job, we abide by what they say, and if they issue a fine. But the evidence is there. This was a working meeting. This wasn't people getting trolleys full of booze down the Strand and wheeling them into Downing Street or with karaoke machines. This was just about a working meeting during a by-election. And anyone who's worked on by-elections, no, you don't knock off at 5 o'clock.
Thank you very much indeed, Baroness Smith. Well, joining me now is former Labour advisor John McTernan, who was Tony Blair's Director of Political Operations from 2005 to 2007. And Joe Tanner, who ran the PR strategy for Boris Johnson's 2008 London mayoral campaign. Good evening, both of you. Joe Tanner, what do you make of Keir Starmer's move? What do you think his calculation is?
Well, I mean, I think there's a few people sitting back thinking that he's played, I think, what many of us would call a blinder. Keir likes his football, and I think his team will probably be quite buoyant about their move this evening. But I think this row about the semantics of exactly what it is that he's committing to doing is very difficult. But actually, it's detracted attention from the Queen's speech tomorrow. The government are going to really need something good in that Queen's speech to get some attention and get back onto the policy issues that I think actually everyone I think out there really wants the government to do. But I think fundamentally, the Labour team have clearly had a good look at what they think in terms of evidence. They're thinking that the gamble is there to be taken. And I think it shows some bravery that probably a lot of people have sat back and thought that Keir Starmer doesn't have. So I think it's going to be really interesting as to how they play out over the next few weeks.
So when you look at this, though, I mean, Keir Starmer, as you say, is taking a gamble. But what do you make of the fact that if he's issued with a fine, he'll resign, but actually if he's found to have broken rules but he's not issued with a fine, then he won't resign? I mean, surely that's not what people think about as integrity. People what think about integrity is whether people have broken lockdown rules a lot.
And actually, I have to say, Kirsty, I think that is part of the gamble. I mean, in reality, if we are in that position where Durham police do something similar to what they did with Dominic Cummings and they say that they're not going to issue a fine, then imagine what those front pages are going to look like. Imagine what the polling is going to look like. Imagine the uproar. It is a huge gamble to suggest that he's not going to resign if a fine is not issued, but actually he gets a pretty stern...
John McTernan, I mean, how was that game then? You know, that actually if he's found to have broken the rules but not fined, then he's okay?
Look, I think what he decided to do was to put this in a box. If he hadn't had the press conference today, tomorrow had been nominated as the day after. So tomorrow he can get up and go, what's in the Queen's speech that's about the NHS? What's in the Queen's speech about cost of living? What's in the Queen's speech that can match my windfall tax, my £600 per household of cash to help you right now? And that allows him, he'll have one question in every press conference about this and the process and the hair splitting, and he'll go, I won't have to resign because there'll be nothing. I'll be fine, I won't resign. And he's just going to stick to that.
Sorry, it's really made a calculation as well that no Conservatives are going to call for him to resign because they haven't called for their own leader to resign. Well, most of them haven't.
No, you saw a massive rowing back in the last 24 hours. You had cabinet ministers demanding the Durham Police Act, and now you've had cabinet member after cabinet member kind of going, oh, I don't really think it's a resigning issue. I think they've got the point that the resigning issue cuts two different ways. So you can't drive out Keir Starmer for one curry where he actually was working.
But it looks as if he's going for political advantage. You know, as Baroness Smith was saying, he's a man of integrity, probity, and so forth. It looks like they're both playing politics now.
But
and actually,
he's a politician. Of course, he's playing politics.
But hang on, we're talking about COVID here, and he's the very man who's saying that we shouldn't be playing politics when it comes to what people have suffered.
He's taken tomorrow. He's being accused by the Daily Mail of trying to put pressure on the Durham police by saying he's innocent until proven guilty. The man has no way of doing anything that's not political in a place when you get almost a fortnight of attacks on this one issue. He's taken this position and pivoted, and I think he's put the government into a difficult position, which is what the opposition are meant to do. Keir would like, I would like, I think Joe would like, she said it, us to be talking about policy, about substance, because there are enough crises in the country. You're going to go on to Northern Ireland later. There's so many things we need to talk about to make it a better country. This thing is now in the hands of the police. They've looked at it once, they've cleared them, they'll look at it again, they're going to clear them again.
Joe Tanner, if you were advising Boris Johnson how to handle this, what would you tell him?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think, in all honesty, I think they need to actually be moving on. I think what really worried me over the weekend was the reports about the Prime Minister being buoyant, and I was slightly nervous that his team had decided that was a smart move, because actually what we don't want to hear is a Prime Minister that's buoyant. We want to hear of a Prime Minister that's getting on with the job and is recognising that those election results were difficult, therefore work is needing to be done, as John pointed out. So I think the crucial bit is actually to be cracking on now with the stuff that people out there are crying out for. I think actually they need to just let the police do what they're doing. I don't think the attacks on Durham police suggesting that they are going to somehow be worried about this being political, I don't think that helps. I don't think any politicians criticising the police in that way helps at all. And I think they almost need to just kind of go quiet on this, because actually the more they play it up, the more they amplify the fact that Keir Starmer's taken this stance. So I think it's about actually moving on and getting on with those issues, which, those election results last week, I think just that's what people want.
Well, just very briefly, John McTernan, such is the nature of this, is that at the beginning of the programme, Nick Watt was saying, that they have documentary evidence to say that they were working till 1 o'clock, but Keir Starmer wasn't there. Well, they've come on to clarify that now, just to tell us that actually Keir Starmer did actually work after dinner, but not till 1 a.m. I mean, this could actually get quite tricky. If it got tricky, if he had to resign, I was asking Baroness Smith, we'd have a Labour leadership battle all over again.
Look, he won't resign because there won't be a fine, but in the event that he did, Labour is spoilt for choice. Lisa Nandy, Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper, Wes Streeting. I think it'd be fine to renew our leadership and watch the Tories not able to renew theirs.
Thank you both very much indeed.